Joining us, Daniel Frishberg, for Chief Investment Strategist at Frishberg.com, and still around the desk too is Kirby Daly with us. You've written a book as well, Daniel, called Investing Without Borders. That tells us that you're looking a little beyond the US market when it comes to earnings and investment stories right now.
Yeah, in fact, way beyond, because I think really there is no U.S. economy or U.S. stock market that mean anything. Money moves so easily between countries and around the world that opportunity is where you find it, not necessarily in the country you happen to live in.
Daniel, isn't it time, though, to start looking outside the obvious candidates when you look at the BRIC economies, the emerging markets? It seems to be a theme that is very well entrenched now.
Well, actually, you know, in order to have a book that came out last March, you had to talk about it. You had to start writing it about 2.5 or 3 years ago. But you're right. The idea is very well entrenched. And I think probably Brazil and China and India are very crowded trades right now. And you know, they are even more difficult to do business with because they're aware of how popular they are as trades. But you go to the next tier, and Indonesia, Malaysia, Taiwan, Korea, Chile, Colombia. Those are, Indonesia even is getting a little bit crowded right now, but then following that will be Vietnam, and then you're going to be having Africa. We're building a middle class around the world, and nothing's going to stop that from happening. And it's going to be the best. That was the biggest industry in the world when the United States built its middle class, and it caused capital to flow here endlessly, and I think that's going to happen around the rest of the world as we build the middle class everywhere. It's a good business, and it is rightfully attracting capital.
Daniel, it's Kirby here. I'm right with you on the world being one economy. I started out as a Japan strategist after trading for a number of years. Realized you can't just follow one country. Went to an Asia strategist. Realized that's ridiculous. It's a global. You have to have a global view in this world. So I'm right with you there. I'm wondering what your outlook is. The idea that the middle class of emerging markets are going to drive global growth, to me, is at this point putting the cart before the horse. We have a big transition that needs to take place that we haven't really started yet. We haven't seen a world that has survived without stimulus or without hyperconsumption from the U.S. and from the West, driven by leverage, securitization, et cetera, that's unsustainable. I'm not sure that these countries are ready to take the mantle yet. What's your outlook? Are we ready, or do we need a few more years of transition?
Well, honestly, people have been saying that for a long time. And, you know, the stock market is not really GDP futures. It eventually becomes kind of like that. There obviously, real value is eventually reflected in the stock market. But right now, you can look at the flow of funds, simply where capital is going. And a lot of the reason that there's so much capital flowing now in that direction is because of the carry trade, because we're giving away free money, and the Japanese, both of these slow-growing economies, are giving away free money, and people are taking that money and investing it where they believe the growth is going to be. So I think in that sense it is a logical allocation of your resources if you have some of that extra free money. I guess your question kind of is about whether or not those economies will really be able to absorb that capital over the years and utilize it efficiently. And I'm not sure whether they will, but I do know this. They are attracting the capital now, both in the bond market and in the stock market. We're sitting here in the United States with a 1.5%, a 1%, or a 0.5% interest rate, depending on the maturity. In Indonesia right now, which is a healthy economy, not only healthy, but it's got a good, strong balance sheet. It's got good, solid growth as far as the eye can see. And you can get 7.5% for a bond there. I believe that not only can everyone in the world earn 7 or 7.5% by lending money in that direction, but also you're going to see a convergence of interest rates where eventually the U.S. interest rates will rise and the emerging market interest rates will fall and they'll converge, which means you'll have appreciation to go along with your 7% yield. This is a good place for people to put safe money, and it is attracting capital.
Daniel raises a good point there too during the commentary about the fact that the trend could be your friend. We're going to pick up more on that with Kirby in just a moment, but we must say goodbye to Daniel Frishberg there. We'll come back to Kirby Daly in just a bit. Questions for him, email us. The address is squawk@cnbcasia.com.